Hi, I am Lex Vanguard. Welcome to my channel, and in this video I'm actually going to show you how to create my Happy Planner inspired digital planner rings. They look something like this. So first what I'm going to do is walk you through what I did to create this one, and then I'll do a demonstration for you where I'll create a whole new one and you can watch that entire process. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more digital planning content, and let's go ahead and jump into the video. So this is one of the first planner rings that I did. I had to do two different kinds of rings. I did this ring, and then I also did this ring because this one is for the planner when it's open and this one is for the planner when it is closed. I'll show you an example of what that looks like. So this is the planner when it is closed, and this is what the planner rings look like there. And then this is the planner when it is open, and this is what the planner rings look like there. To walk you through this one, what I basically did was I had 4 different layers on top of the background layer. So this is the background color. I didn't touch that. I toggled it off so that we don't see the background, but I didn't delete it. I left it there. But I created 4 other layers on top of that layer. So with the first layer, I googled a picture of the Happy Planner ring that I wanted to use, and I inserted it on its own layer on top of the background layer. And then I created a new layer on top of that and traced the ring. And that would be this layer here. So I'm going to turn off all the other layers so you can just see that one. And that's what that looks like. So imagine a picture of a digital planner ring, a real life digital planner ring right underneath this one. I just took the color that I chose, which was gray in this example, and I traced it around, and that's the first thing that I did. Even though you see a gap here, that was not there when I traced it. When I traced it all the way around and made it a complete circle. Even if there was a page here blocking it from being a complete circle, I filled it in. I made a complete circle out of it just so I could get the shape that I wanted. After that, I created another layer, which would be this layer here. And what I did there was I copied the outline layer and then used the color to drop and fill in whatever I wanted the color to be. And again, it was completely filled in. There was no gap here. I didn't get to that step yet. So it's just a complete circle of the color that I wanted to use. After I did that, then I used the eraser tool, and the eraser tool is how I created this shape here. I did like a cutaway just because I know that that's where the page of the planner is going to go, so I just took the eraser and did like a cutaway, erased all that off this layer, and then I did the same thing on this layer. Cut that out and erased that as well. So then when you had both, it looked something like that. Make sure that the color layer is below the layer with the outline so that you can still have the outline on top if you're going for that clip art look. After that, I wanted to create some highlight and some shadow. So I created another layer which would go behind the first 2 layers. So if you can see that on my screen, I have, this is my shadow layer, and that is underneath or behind the layer with the color and the layer with the outline. So I did that, put the shadow here, and I put it behind just so I didn't have to worry about how neatly I drew the shadow. And I'll give you a close-up look of what that shadow looks like. That's going to be the hole. So when you create the page, that is where that hole is in the page, in the paper. And then I did the highlight. The highlight was the layer that I put on top of everything. So the order that I have these in would be the highlight at the very top, and then the outline right underneath that, and then the color right underneath that, and then the shadow right underneath that, and then the background layer. So for the shadow, I just took a lighter color of the color that I used to color the ring, and I just did a line across where you see the line. That's all I did there. So it's pretty basic, pretty easy, and pretty simple. I did it in about 4 steps. That's how I created this ring. Now I'm gonna do a demonstration so you can actually see exactly how I created this. Let me turn off my background color. And let's create a new document. So I'm gonna go here, add a new document. I'm gonna do untitled canvas, 1000 by 1000. I'm going to keep the background on for now. And then it automatically created us a layer right on top of that because it knows that we shouldn't touch the background layer. So I already found my photo, but what I would do is just go to Google and type in digital planner ring or happy planner rings. So let's do that. I typed in happy planner rings and then I clicked on images. And then you can scroll through and see which image is the best for you to use, which has the right perspective and is going to be great for you to trace over. So like I said, I already found an image, so I'm just going to upload it into Procreate. So I'm going to go to the settings here, insert a photo, and then insert the one that I use to trace. The one that I want to use to trace is what I meant. So now that that's there, I'm going to create another layer on top of that. Select the color that I want to use for the outline, which for me is going to be this. Make sure I have the right size brush that I want to use. And then go ahead and trace the ring. You don't have to trace the ring exactly as it is in the picture that you're using. You can play around with the shape and do what you think looks best. This is where some of your creativity can come in handy. So it's not perfect, but hopefully you get the idea of what I'm doing. In fact, I think what I'll do is draw this without the picture in the background so I can really see the shape of it. Now I'm going to duplicate this layer. So I just swipe over to this way, swipe left, duplicate the layer. So now that I've duplicated the layer, I'm going to take the layer that is in between the picture and the duplicate, and I'm going to color that layer. So I'm going to choose a color that's a little bit lighter than the outline, just so I can still see the outline. So I'll do that color. I'm going to go back to my outline layer, the one that's on the top right now, and I want to create a heart in the middle using the color I use for the outline, which is going to be the hole in the planner ring. So I'm going to go back to the color layer, select the color I'm filling in with, this one, and fill that in. I'm just going to take the eraser, carve that out. So if you do this a little neater, then you won't have to carve out the heart. But what I did was I just took the eraser and erased the part of the heart out on this color layer. And that's all it took. Now what I want to do is create the cutout. I'm just going to do one side. Whenever you do the planner ring that has a cutout on both sides, you just do the same thing on both sides. So I'm going to go to the color layer, and I'm going to choose my eraser, enlarge this a little bit, and just carve out somewhat of a square or rectangle shape. So that's my rectangle shape, and then I'm gonna go to the outline layer and do the same thing. Just get rid of what's within that rectangle. So these bits here that I see that are left are what is left on the color layer. So I'm going to go back to that layer and erase that. So now I have the cutout where the pages go. I'm going to now click on my picture layer so that I can insert another layer on top of that, and that's where I'm going to put my shadow. So I'm going to click here and take the color I want to use for my shadow, which for me is going to be this color, and I'm going to create a shape like this. And that would be my shadow for where my pages go, the hole for the pages. So it looks something like that, and of course if you spend more time on it you can perfect it, but for me this is good enough for demonstration purposes. And now we want to create some highlight. So I'm going to go click on the outline layer and then add a layer on top of that, and that is going to be the layer I use for my highlight. So I'm going to choose the color I want to use for my highlight, which for me is this color. And I'm going to just trace along this bottom line on the upper part of the, that looks horrible. I'm going to trace the bottom line on the upper part of the ring. And I'm just going to hold it down to give myself a more perfect line. Fill that gap in a little bit. I'm going to take the eraser and just kind of perfect it. So anywhere where I drew over the outline, I'm going to try to erase that because I don't want to cover up the outline. So right now I'm just creating the shape that I want, going back and forth between the eraser and the brush. Alright, so that is pretty much how I created my planner ring. I'm going to go ahead at this point and delete the picture layer because I just don't need it anymore. And I'll remove the background layer so we can see what that looks like without the background. That is the planner ring. And if you want a bit more contrast like you have with these other ones that I've done, then just choose more contrasting colors. Like for the planner ring, I did like a golden color, a golden yellow, For the outline, I did a color that's very far off from the yellow. It's like a deeper yellowy greenish dark color, yellowy greenish gray maybe, and that created a lot of contrast between that color and the yellow. And then for the highlight, I did something that's pretty yellow, but it's white, closer to white. So again, it created more contrast and it gives you more of that clip art look. And for the shadow, I did like a really deep gray. It's not even yellow. So if you want it to look more like this one, just choose more contrasting colors, and that'll give you that clip art look. But if you want something that is a little bit more 3D, a little bit more realistic, then choose colors that are closer together and give the shadows and the highlights more attention, and then you'll get that 3D pop. But in a nutshell, that is how I created that. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. And make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, so whenever I do come up with more digital planning content, you will be the first to know. Aside from that, leave me a comment and let me know if you have created your own digital planner. Also, visit my Etsy shop. It is Lex Vanguard. The link will be down below in the description box. And check out what planners I have available right now. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one.